Okay, welcome back to High Tales with your favorite lit sisters. And we mean literature, I swear.
I swear.
So we are now in our final episode of the final published book that Nicole just told me I've been incorrectly saying as book 5 when it should be book 4.
That's just what I just saw a video today that people are like, stop calling it book 6 is coming out next. It's book 5 because Frost and Starlight was book 3.5.
I'm actually okay with the fact that Frost and Starlight is not considered like a full book in this count.
I mean, it's a true novella.
Like, let's downgrade that to 0.
3.5.
3.1.
2. 3.12.
Good negotiation.
All right. So where we left off last episode.
Well, we have our enlightening moment.
Right. Where we left off is Nesta is not fully accepting that the last time they laid with one another, that it was very obvious that they're mates. And she's like,
they're
called in her bargain.
Intertwined.
Right. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful thing to read.
But then she said, mates don't mean shit to me. I'm a human.
I like how you said shit lighter. Like,
well, it's early in the episode, so I don't cuss. It doesn't matter. Shit to me. Because I'm a human.
Yes.
And in human language, we just got married or divorced.
Yeah,
Rob.
it doesn't mean anything to me. It's just a word. It's just a word. Cassian was annoyed, and then Nesta called in her part of the deal that they made at the very beginning of this book. It's hard to even remember what the deal was. But she basically said, you need to go away and leave me alone for a week unless I come get you first.
You have to go to the House of the Wind.
Yeah.
And then don't talk to me for a week.
Right.
Unless I talk to you.
And she was with her girlfriends and all chummy and very quickly realized, no, he is my mate and I love him. And I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to go to him and I'm going to tell him that. But that's not what happened.
Well, and I will say she got better, like, oh, I love Cassian, after multiple hours of crying and being like, what a jerk. He just loves me so much.
My life sucks.
My life sucks.
All these people love me. Very
and
Nesta. Very Nesta response.
Super rich right now. I got a tight bod because I've been working out. My sister is high lady of pretty much the world, let's be honest.
Is also pregnant.
Well, that part is sad. So that is a woe is me part.
I guess. Okay. We're not gonna focus on that. So we start this part of the episode, which is called, what's the name of her sword?
Ataraxia.
I think that's right. Atari. Her sword, Atari. Axia. And she wakes up and smells men around her that she does not recognize. No. She's in her nightgown, but she's outside sleeping and opens her eyes and there's a bunch of Valerian soldiers around her with their wings bound. And
I will note, they all had clothes on.
They did. They were not in their nightgowns. Awkward. They also knew they were getting taken for the blood right.
Fair.
She did not.
This is just telling me that from now on I should wear like full clothes when I go to bed, like my kids do, because they're too lazy to get dressed the next day.
Because when they come get you for the blood right, you want to be ready?
Yes.
Always.
That's why my kids do it. Not because they're lazy and don't want to have to get dressed in the morning.
Be ready, on tilt, all the time.
Fair.
So she was kind of mentally going through her head, why would she have woken up first? Okay, maybe it's because she's made. Maybe she's a little different from everyone. And she sees a knife stuck in a tree. And she's like, Cassian told me there's no weapons. That's a little freaking weird. And at the same time that she sees the knife, she sees another male across all these bodies looking right back at her. He sees the knife. She sees that he sees the knife. And Nesta takes off running. Then it pans directly to Cassian. So this is the beginning of a lot of this. We're going to try and do this justice as we're talking about it. There was a ton of yin and yang in this section to show you like the franticness of Nesta's in the blood right. They know she's in the blood right. The way Cassian and her left things off. And then what Cassian is doing right now as well, which is going absolutely crazy.
And let me be honest. It really felt like Nesta was the program you were watching or the show you were watching. And then Cassian was like the commercial breaks where you're like, come on, just get past this already.
I agree. It's probably the first time in the book that I was a little annoyed that Cassian just couldn't get the fuck over it. Yeah. Okay. She's in the blood right. Get over it. She's fine. Trust that you trained her well. All right. Move through it. Move through it.
Can we pan to Nesta again?
If you don't remember, Cassian, there is the brewing of another fucking war going on. A whole other war. She's going to be fine, okay? She's a badass. We all know she is. So Cassian wants to fly to Ramil to get Nesta, and he has to be reminded that, like, hey, if you do that, they're going to hunt you down and kill you and her.
And Reese can't do anything about it.
Reese can't do anything about it. It is the way that things are. And just chill the fuck out. Because we need you to do other stuff. Az got word that Eris was kidnapped by Braylon. Az and Cassian need to go get him out because he knows too much about the Night Court and about Nesta's powers that if Braylon is close enough to him with that crown, you know, she can get anything she needs out of him. So somebody's got to go save him. Reese can't go. And when they're pushing him, why can't you go? Why can't you go? I think Amren was the one that was pushing him the most. Feyre's like, okay, we made a bargain that we're going to die together. And they're like, you fucking idiots. I think Amren first said, you fools. You love struck fools or something like that, which is exactly something Amren would say to them and is exactly what I was actually thinking too. It's like, that seemed really loving when they did it. And now
it's like, that's
now
not
I'm like,
smart.
You guys are kind of stupid. That was a really dumb bargain.
Well, and she's pregnant. Okay.
Yeah.
If her and the baby survive, or if the baby survives and she doesn't, that means it loses both of his parents.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I did find it interesting when it's like, well, why can't you go, Amren? And they're like, and Feyre kind of stumbles, and Amren's like, you can say it. I don't have any fucking powers. Okay.
Which confirmed it, because I was hoping she still had some.
They had not actually specifically said she didn't have any powers. But she is like high fae, so she probably does have some, but just not enough for something like this.
I am writing something down for our theory show.
Oh, and hey guys, we're going to do a show after this on our theories on what the next book's going to be and what our plot twists are going to happen.
And what introspectively, like, we think connections are that aren't there. Like, I feel like I do that all the time with Disney movies.
Which this is going to be really good to do this episode before we actually read, like, The Crescent City or Throne of Glass, because there are different things in those books that give you different theories about these characters. So I like that we're going to do it beforehand and then look back on ourselves like, oh, you silly little fools.
Idiots.
You silly little fools.
Yes, we want to document our failures to show growth.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So Moore's not there either. She's still in Bahal.
Or to give Sarah ideas.
Sarah
J. Maas.
Oh.
She's going to change the whole
Sarah? Yeah.
You're talking about her like you don't know her personally.
We know SJM. We do not. But I feel like I know her. Okay,
she listens to this and wants to know us.
Cassian's a little pissy that he has to go take care of actual business, but it has to be him and Az. Now back to regularly scheduled programming.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Finally, so Nesta is sprinting towards the knife.
Yeah.
This big, gigantic guy that has at least 50 pounds, probably a foot on her, is running towards the knife too. She gets there first and boom, swipes, and he lands on her.
Yeah.
Slit throat, cut, he gone. She wins. The knife is in her hand, and she's like, F yeah, Valkyrie.
Yeah,
like,
I'm the shit. You got some nice boots. Give me that shit.
And then she puts all his clothes on.
Yep.
And one weird thing is she takes off her nightgown. I'm like, it's going to be cold. Like, just keep your nightgown on and put everything on top of it. Like, layers, baby girl.
Yeah, I didn't really get that.
But she, like, put it on his face and was like, it was like a mourning shroud. And I'm kind of like, that's almost, I don't know. That
I
move
took it as
was not a survivalist move.
So I took it, now whoever finds him knows a fucking girl killed him.
Yeah, but
here's my nightgown.
But
bitch.
Tactically, like, if you think about war strategy, you don't even want them to know a girl is there.
They already know.
How do they know?
They always know.
But anyway, so she murders him.
Yes.
She stupidly lets go of this piece of clothing when it's going to be cold outside. But yeah, let's just leave a layer on his face.
I mean, it's not like it's a flannel nightgown, Marissa.
And it's saying, hooty hoo, there's a female present
with no
if you want to grape her.
Oh,
see? Look at me.
Look at you.
Look at me.
You're like a social media star now.
Well, I have to get on social media to be a star.
True story.
Okay. So she kills him and she's just like, what do I do now? Where do I go? And she's kind of assessing it. And she notices that her bracelet, the one that she made with Emery and Gwyn, is like glowing.
The charm.
The charm. Yes. And so she realizes that when she had made that wish, and we all know that she makes made objects.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think she kind of knew what she was doing.
Good.
When she did. Because she had already made the second dread trope at this point. And they did mention there was like a little spark of magic. But yeah, it's smart. Yeah. It was smart.
So anyway, she is like putting her wrist in certain directions, almost using this as like a compass.
Well, and before this happens, she remembered Cassian said that they had split up him and Az.
Oh, yeah. And, so she knew that background.
So she knew she was in one of 3 groups.
Yeah.
So then she started kind of using the charm as a compass a little bit.
Yeah. And she realized based on, I think she climbed a tree or mountainside or something like that and to like get a lay of the land. And she realized, okay, I am on, I forget if it was the east or west side. So I'm at this drop site. So Gwyn and Emery are either in the north or in the south or whatever direction.
They're probably separated.
And they're probably separated
if I'm here alone. Yeah.
And so she puts her arm.
Jerks.
She puts her arm in both directions and she sees it glowing lightly in one. And on the other one, it's like bright and there's a sense of urgency. And she's
she said she thought she heard a voice whisper,
hurry.
So
she's like, okay, I gotta go. Yeah. And she just starts trucking along. She has the knife. She has 2 big boots and then her clothes. And she's running as fast as she can.
Now, granted, I think she knew she did something with them, but she didn't know what she actually made. Yeah.
No. So she's heading up the mountainside. She's like, most people, based on where I am, most people are going to just head straight to the mountain.
Right.
So hardly anybody's going to be here. I'm not going to be as cautious as I normally would. I'm just going to truck along. And all of a sudden, whoosh, arrow flies by.
Wait, but Marissa, I thought there were no weapons in the blood
There's not supposed to be weapons. This blood rite is harder than any other blood rites ever.
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 Oh, you were going for Taylor Swift. Get it.
So she's like, oh, shoot. I thought I was all alone. She grabs that arrow and she shoves it in her belt because she's like, weapons? I'm not going to leave this weapon just sitting here. But I will leave my nightgown. Whatever. No big deal. There's also the whole, like, Faye can smell so much. Mm-hmm. Like, Faye can, like, scent everything. So they could even track her with that. That's just so stupid.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
That's another plot hole that we found, possibly, that you found, not we. I'm not going to give myself credit for that.
I think it's more just we attribute it to Nesta not being a natural survivor like me.
Okay, Elaine.
Okay.
I think it was a fuck you.
I know it was, but it was a stupid F you.
Well, we'll see. Let's talk about the rest of the
I'm
book.
Sorry, I'll get past it.
We'll see if the nightgown is what brings her down, Marissa.
So the warrior that shot the arrow was like doing his ha ha ha, I've got you now, you idiot. Like, again, villain monologue.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
Is Nesta scared?
Nesta ain't scared.
No. She asks him for information.
Yeah. She gets some information. She hears that Emery was dropped with this guy.
Okay, but listen.
Yeah.
She said, was there a woman at your camp? And he's like, oh, the crippled bitch.
Yeah.
You don't want to say that about Nesta's friend. Fair. You don't want to say that about her homegirl.
I just slid right past that. It was just they identified it as Emery.
It's very ableist.
So he's like, I got you now. And she like bows so he'll think she looks defeated. Mm-hmm. And then just goes, boom, knife right in his private parts.
You could say groin.
In his groin.
Do you see in the notes I have a little smiley face next to this line? Hee hee. That's me going, hee hee. You thought you had her and she knifed you in the dick.
Yep, she sure did. And so she like pillages him for the bow. She wraps it around. She takes the arrows that aren't like underneath him because she doesn't care as
She's
much.
like, I'm not lifting you up.
You're big. She grabs her knife back. He's just like bawling because his, you know what, pretty much just got cut.
He's bleeding out. That's a pretty big artery.
Yes. So, and then she just starts sprinting along, not even a goodbye or an F you. Like, I love that she's smart enough not to do a villain monologue so other people catch her.
True. That's how you survive,
Yes.
guys. You don't need to go out with words. Action. If
you stab somebody in the groin, don't stand around and talk about it. Get the F out of there while he's screaming.
Yeah. And think about how you wish you had your nightgown on. Under your clothes.
Seriously. And so she ran, and it's so funny how she describes it. She's like, and after a while of her running, you know, the screams of him still yelling about his thing getting cut off, like, slowly dissipated.
So he let out.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Well, I took it as she was just far away, but I guess you're right. He could have just died.
Oh, I took it that he bled out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't take any of his clothes either.
Maybe he was fatter.
She could have taken some boots.
Maybe he had bigger feet.
Okay. Anyway, I'll talk about her survival or lack of survival skills.
Yeah, you're really
later.
annoyed with her survival skills.
I actually just watched Alone, the reality TV show where they drop people in the wilderness. So I feel like I'm an expert
we
right
just
now.
finished what's the opposite of that on The Outsider on Netflix.
I don't
but it's the opposite. You have to end it in a team. So they drop them, but they add on the fact that like you have to socialize because a lot of survivalists are okay alone, right? Surviving by themselves and getting food for one person versus you deal with illness. It's like community.
Building a community from scratch versus
and then if you don't have a team, so say like everyone in your team flares out, that's what they call it. You do a flare and you leave. You have 24 hours to find a team or you have to flare out.
What show is this?
Outsider. I think it's called Outsider.
Okay. I will put it on the list if I ever get...
We are not sponsored.
Okay. So she slowly comes up on like some voices that she hears. So she like is starting to creep and she hears those MFers talking about Emery.
Those MFers.
Yes. And so she's like identifying, she's like, okay, that dude in the middle, he's obviously the leader. That guy's a grunt, like assessing all of them from social standing, not in terms of like that person has a weapon or anything like that. Again, like a survivor skills.
Well, she was a social warrior.
Fair.
Originally.
She was
her
born.
origin story.
Yes.
So.
But they start talking about Emery and she is just like,
at that point, they revealed that she like fell into the river. I think she jumped into the river.
Yeah. And they were joking like, oh, I hope she survives the
waterfall.
Cliff.
They were right upstream from the waterfall. Yeah.
So she is like, okay, I've got to find Emery. She's gone down the river.
She doesn't even, this is what I thought was kind of weird. She hears them and then she looks in the direction that they're talking and sees Emery on a log. It's like, well, don't they see her too? No, she's right there.
She actually leaped from a couple trees to trees.
She was up in the trees.
Yes, so she was up in the trees. So I figure she probably went far and then saw her in the distance.
Literally read it like, oh, they're talking about Emery. Oh, she jumped into the river. Wow, those are rapids. She's probably going to die. The waterfall's right there. There's Emery! Emery, I'm coming!
Those stupid dudes.
These idiots didn't even see you.
So she does. She goes about 20 feet evidently to Nicole.
About 5 feet. 5 feet, climbs down, says, you guys suck, and then saw Emery over a tree.
Yes.
Over the falls.
So she's like, oh crap, okay, I've got to get Emery. She sees the wings like sporadically like twitching.
Yeah, so
like,
she knows she's alive.
But she is not moving at all. No. Like, and not gripping on anything. She just luckily happened to have fallen right where this branch is.
Right.
So poor Nesta, again,
and these rapids,
she had her nightgown right now. She has to disrobe.
That's a pretty good freaking call, actually.
Yeah. She has to disrobe. She has to unarm herself because she can't carry a bunch of junk.
Right.
So she is quote unquote naked or whatever.
And the rapids are pretty intense.
Yes. And it's cold.
Yeah.
She keeps the bow because she's going to use it as like a rubber band for her and Emery. And
Which a nightgown
would have been more comfortable and more effective.
Right.
So anyway, she like starts going, and in this freezing cold, Emery's still not moving.
Mm-hmm.
She like has to get under the water, and she's like, oh my gosh, Emery's not going to like this. But she actually has to rip her nightgown to use the nightgown to help wrap her arms.
The base of her around. Yeah. Or like, link her arms on her neck.
Yes. So her arms are, they're both naked. Her arms are tied around Nesta, Emery's arms. And then the bow is keeping their bodies together.
Right.
And then Nesta just starts swimming. Emery is still out cold.
Right.
Okay.
She has to go like rock to rock.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very slow, painful process.
Well, because the bowstring, that description of it just like cutting into her.
It made her bleed, like right in between her
tatas.
Yes.
Yes.
So she gets there, puts Emery and her both under a jacket just to like try to warm up because they're freezing.
Starts a fire, she's freaking out. Like, she's like, what are we going to do? Like, we can't stay here long. We don't have enough clothes to cover both of us. She starts her like mind stilling, right? Breathing and like we're gonna survive. We're gonna find Gwyn.
She's like, I'm gonna have to go out and find shelter. Yeah. And so she's walking around. She doesn't see anything. She walks in the woods, and behind her, where she's just passed, he's like, you just missed it. And he's like, there's a cave behind that like ivory over there. Or what I pictured as like an ivory curtain, which I know that's not.
I pictured the same thing though, where it's like almost like the old like army drapes that are camouflage.
That are fake. Yes.
But it was like little wispy.
Yes. And so here is this fae. He's not extraordinarily large or anything like that.
Right.
And she's just like skeptical AF and said, why should I trust you? What are you going to do? Like getting ready to fight him.
Oh, no, you want me to come in there so you can kill me in my sleep?
Yeah. Like totally not believing him and also ready to murder him in a second. And he's like, I'm not an idiot. My goal is to at least get to the mountain or whatever class that is. It's like Oriston or something like that.
Yeah, just get to the mountain.
To get to the mountain. And he's like, I'm not stupid enough to pick a fight with you.
I know who you are.
Yeah, I'm not an idiot.
Feyre Cursebreaker would have my balls, basically.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah.
And most likely you have somebody who's hurt with you, or else you'd be up in a tree already.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so she was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about a tree.
Yeah. That's actually a pretty good idea.
Fair. Okay, I'm learning a lot of survival skills from this guy.
His name's Balthazar.
Yes.
Balthazar.
And she's like, okay, fine. I'll sleep in this cave with you. And me and my friend will come. But by the way, I can't take her here, so I actually need you to help me.
Well, but even before that, he was like, I swear on Anais that I won't hurt you guys. And she's like, or I won't hurt you. And she goes, and my friend? And he's like, oh, you're actually taking to Faye a lot better, you know, than we thought.
You understand the words.
Alice didn't even give her the advice. She just picked up on it.
Because she's street smart.
And then she's like, hey, dude, can you help me carry my friend? She's kind of unconscious.
And he does.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll take first watch.
After he gives Emery his coat, too.
Yes.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
So far.
Or he's scared.
Yeah. And he took first watch, and she said, be gone when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
That's how Nesta says thank you. Just be gone when I wake up.
He gave her food, shelter, clothing, helped her
half-dead friend.
And her reaction wasn't thank you.
No. Skeptical, be gone in the morning. Oh, after he told her the scary bedtime campfire stories about the beasts that roam at night. And then he was like, the stupid soldiers think that they can't climb trees. So then you're like, maybe the tree thing isn't a good idea.
Why would you offer the tree thing if the tree thing was stupid?
Not only are we Hunger Gamesing it like against each other for the most part, but there's beasts that will slaughter you. And then she proceeds to hear men being like shredded all night long.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So 1, she stays awake because she doesn't trust him.
True.
2, she stays awake because it's so loud out there with all the murdering happening.
Could you really sleep through that? Apparently, Feyre could give a blowjob and have sex, though.
I mean...
Bringing it back to that one. A little bit different.
Yes. Unfortunately, they have to split the night in two because Emery still hasn't awoken.
Yeah.
So they're all cuddled together. Even the guy cuddles in next to Nesta, which would be scary. I would have cuddled next to Emery.
Yeah.
Because Nesta, I feel like, would murder you in your sleep.
Oh, you were scared for it.
I was scared.
I thought you were saying if you were Nesta, you'd be scared. And you're totally afraid of Nesta.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Nesta's scared.
He was more confident than I thought he would be.
Yeah.
Like because she was not giving him an inch.
But she's like 5'2", right? She's super tiny.
She is.
Yes.
She is. Okay, but we have to pause regularly scheduled programming. Right now.
Another commercial.
Right now, Cassian is hunting, like, what are they, scoping things out? What do you call that?
Being a spy.
When cops do an overnight. Stakeout. Cassian's doing a stakeout with Az, and Eris is nowhere to be seen at Braylon's place. He can't sleep. He can't talk to his buddies via mind-to-mind because they're out of Demonte range. But he's like, I know Nesta's okay, though, because I would feel it if she wasn't, because she's my mate. Mates always do. Yeah. Even if she rejected the bond, even if she hates me. This is what he's thinking right now. He's not very focused.
We'll call that Nesta-ing it out. It's when you overly anguish about something that's not...
Only affects you?
That's only about you, but also not the biggest problem in the room right now.
Very true. It's almost like they're mates. So back to regularly scheduled program. Nesta gets up in the morning. Dude is gone, right? So respected her wishes. Maybe he is a little afraid of her. I love how it's like Nesta goes out, picks through the dead warrior's clothes, can find not a lot because people's limbs are ripped off and it's too messed up, but she finds clothes for both her and Emery, new boots for her because her other boots were way too big, found boots for Emery as well, and canteens and stuff. I will also say it was hilarious how they said pants were hard to come by because most people pooped or peed themselves I forgot about that. When they were getting murdered. And I was like, okay, that's a good call out. That's very realistic because you know that would be a problem. Yes, for sure. That's what happens when you die. Well, and that's the first thing Nesta did when she died. Guys, if you needed to know that, when you die, you shit yourself, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so when she got back from getting them clothes, though, Emery was awake. Yes. And they were both thinking of Gwyn when their bracelets both started to glow to the south with the same kind of urgency that they glowed with when Nesta was coming to find Emery. They found another cave. It took them a day. So Emery took first watch that night. I remember Nesta saying that she thought Emery let her sleep longer as like a thank you, right? Thank you for saving my life. Oh, for sure, for sure. Nesta should have gotten a shirt that said, I saved your life and all I got was a little nap. That is very random. No, it's because Emery... I don't know if they have t-shirt printers in Valaris. Because you said Emery, I let her sleep a little bit longer. Yeah. And then in my head I went... I know why you said it. Next morning, Emery's smelling fire. So they're on their way to the south. They hear males like laughing over to the side. They see a nightgown hanging on a branch. There's 10 different guys. One of them is Emery's cousin. Bellius. And 10 other men by the campfire. Every single one of them had weapons. But I know what you're going to say, Marissa. I thought there were no weapons. Yeah, me too. But there's been arrows and knives, and now every single one of these dudes have weapons. So there's obviously weapons now. It was pretty obvious that Bellius was their leader. Yeah. Emery was grabbed by two of the guys behind them, and they used that nightgown to lure them there. Gwyn wasn't even with them. Emery and Nesta are there. Right. Bellius is like taunting them. Villain monologuing. And he was talking to Nesta, and Nesta notices a glaze over his eyes, like the same glaze that Eris... She's like, is there alcohol in here? Yeah. No, it's like this is what Eris soldiers looked like. Yeah. And so she's putting I was kind of impressed that she put all those dots together like right away. Because also, Bella sounded very with it in his villain monologue stuff that he was doing at this point. So just as she notices that,
all of a sudden, out of nowhere,
yeah.
Did you like that noise?
That was so beast-like.
Yes. And so these...
You guys, did that growl sound like a beast that was part cat and part serpent? Because that's what it was.
So in my head, I did not picture much serpent except for like the scales.
No, you know what I said?
Like
in
Black Panther,
in my head, I said, what the fuck is half cat, half serpent? It's like a cat head with a snake body?
Snake skin.
On a cat.
On like a panther.
See, I'm very literal because I was like, snake head on a cat? That's a little fucking weird. Cat head on a snake? That's much
impossible.
weirder.
Yeah. We'll see when they make it a movie.
When they describe beasts, I'm usually like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I can picture that in my head. You know, like Tamlin, it's like this beast with like horns, antlers and stuff. A serpent and cat. That stumped me. I was like, wow.
I'm
pretty sure you're right. It's a cat with like a serpent. Maybe it has a serpent tongue.
I'm putting in picture of a serpent cat. Let's see what this looks like.
This is when it would be better if we had video.
And it would be like I could just share my screen real quick and just do this.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's the snake with the cat head.
This is it, man.
That's terrifying.
That's scary. Okay.
That's terrifying. That just took out Bellius's guys.
This is scary.
Yeah.
Okay. So this MFer took out all of the guys, and
not all of them, but
they were all running.
The two that were there holding them took out those two guys.
They grab back all of their weapons and they just start sprinting away, and they start hearing over here, and they're like, what? And they find Gwyn. And she's just like, yeah, I've been kind of like hiding out and I started working towards you. Did you know these things do this, da, da, da? Yeah. And she's just like,
I woke up for all the warriors too. I bet it's because I'm half water nymph or whatever. Like, we're not Illyrian.
Maybe it's just the Illyrians.
She totally walked in and was like, hey guys, what's up? Isn't this fun? We're doing this whole blood right thing. Okay. And they were all worried about her.
Yes. And she's like, I'm fine.
Oh, she was fine.
Oh, yeah. And so
she would have been fine on alone.
Yes. Frankly, she was doing much better than both of them.
Yes.
So, and she had clothes that she acquired from a dead person. She's like, wait, don't worry. I didn't kill him. He was already dead. I just stole his clothes.
Yeah.
Like,
that's totally how I read her part. Like that voice. Not only is she fine and did all of this, she led the beast to them to rescue them.
So she said that she had been like living under the radar. She had like a rope. She had like acquired weaponry. And she's like, oh yeah, I kind of found out where they sleep, and they sleep during the day and they don't like being woken up. And she had actually, she's like, I almost didn't make it, because she actually woke them up and led that beast all the way to him. And she's like, almost died, but it's okay.
But I didn't. I saved you.
Woohoo! Now let's go. It's almost like she was like on an adrenaline rush for days.
Totally. It was great.
So they find a safe spot, a tree, and they actually are all able to sit across the branch, and they have, you know, the rope to wrap around them so that way they can fall asleep.
Well, and we find out Gwyn, that's what Gwen's been doing. They've been in caves. She has been in trees. And this is also when they further I think the beasts were not Illyrian. So they can't smell her. So that's why she wasn't picked out of trees, they think.
And they're like, hopefully my scent and your scent covers up Emery.
Yeah.
Because
did you wear your deodorant today, Emery? Because we need you to not smell a lot.
Yes. And then we won't.
Yes.
We will be really rank.
Another reason to have a nightgown, maybe.
Yes.
That you could throw
Thank you. I'm glad you're finally
Emery.
on my side about this.
As we go on, I think your warrior skills are much more up to par than I anticipated.
Again, all I had to do was watch literally half pay attention to about 3 episodes of this season, and instant gratification. I am now a survivalist.
I'm a warrior.
Okay. And so while they're sitting in the branches, they actually hear Emery tells the story about like the blood rite and the origin story around it. And we find out about Analius.
No idea.
Analius.
I think Analius sounds right.
Yes. And so the whole blood rite is pretty much in his honor. Mm-hmm. And what happened was it was one of the last locations of like the Great War, fought way before the one 500 years ago between the High Fae and the humans. Mm-hmm. It was way before that, where there used to be these godlike creatures, ancient, these deities, right? Which reminds me of the first god that died. So it used to be the High Fae were slaves to these gods.
It might even be before them, because I remember they were just saying ancient beings and Fae.
I think they're connected. I think it's the same time.
The Great War.
Yeah, and I think the Great War was when the new High King of Prythian rose up against it. And so this was one of the last battles of that war.
So is this kind of like wasn't that Nephal's War too?
No, Nephal's War was the war.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, Analius, they were way over, the army of gods was way bigger than what they had. And they had to hold this area until, reinforcements came.
Yeah, Ramil was like the last stand, the mountain of Ramil. Yeah.
Yes. And basically what they found out was these gods, for some reason, were trying to get to the top of that mountain.
Right.
For something.
Still don't know why.
We don't know.
I do like how in the story she goes, we still don't know why. And then just moves on. It's like it's been centuries upon centuries, thousands and thousands of years. And we still don't go, I wonder what that had to do with it. Yeah. Anyways.
So evidently this Illyrian actually had a last stand where he held by himself this mountain for 3 days.
Use this natural archway.
Totally pictured 300 in my head.
Yes.
Like the movie 300.
Oh, for sure.
Where they use that little trench area to just fight back.
Bottleneck them.
But he didn't have 300. He had one. And he held it for 3 days, and then he tragically died.
She's like, he still died. But we celebrate him every year. We do this.
He is immortal now.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting that's what
Balthazar. He was like, I swear to Aeneas, I won't hurt you.
Yes.
Or my friend. Or your friend.
So they finally found each other. They wake up the next day. This is day 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now they've been hiking and moving.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, so are we going to do this or what? Let's actually try to go to the mountain. And so they scope it out and they see in the distance, there's this wooden bridge. And they're like, okay, whoever gets to that bridge first is definitely going to cut it so nobody else can follow them.
Yeah. And Gwyn's like, it'll take us several hours if we run, but we can do it. Yeah.
And they're like, let's win this thing.
Let's do it.
They start jogging along. And then off in the distance, they see this other group of people. And Nesta's in the front and she's just like, okay, we got to shift direction because we're not going to make it in time. And so they all as a unit shift. And they start running directly to the guys.
Except for she doesn't announce it. She just does it, and they do it.
Oh, wait, does she?
Yeah.
Was that all internal monologue?
She just shifts direction.
The males notice it, too, so they shift direction, too. There is a battle.
And it's not even that big of a battle. They took him down. 6 of them, 3 of these. And took him down without much trouble. Emery says Valkyries, and Nesta goes, hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's because they worked as a unit.
Oh, and that's the whole thing with Valkyries. Yeah.
And 300.
And 300. Mm-hmm. But 3, not 300.
Yes.
You call that woman power.
Yes.
Girl power.
CC.
By the way, Cassian is still losing his mind right now. Just so you know. He wants to storm the castle. Az is like, there is no way. It is super heavily guarded, you freaking idiot. Cassian starts asking Az, do you think the girls are alive? You think they're okay? Do you think Nesta's okay? And Az is basically like, you would know if they weren't, and trust their training. You're the one who trained them, you dumbass. And shut up. That's it. Basically, I saw Az's attitude in that. Dude, we trained him. We know. All right? It's fine. Then, all of a sudden, they finally see someone leaving the castle. And Cassian's searching, and he's like, I don't see a prison wagon. And then it's like, oh yeah, that's why I don't see a prison wagon. Eris is riding in the front of the party on a horse, leading them. Az notices the dagger is still at Eris' side, so he's not being influenced by Braylon. He's a fucking traitor. He's working with Braylon. So Cassian wants to kick his ass right away, and Az is like, let's follow him and see how far this betrayal goes.
Which I thought we didn't know for sure that the knife would make him immune to made objects. So I feel like that's a pretty big assumption to jump right to he's a traitor.
I don't think... No, he would have given the knife to her. Told her about it if he was being influenced. I think only maid aren't influenced.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought. But like...
But he just has the dagger. I don't think that makes him uninfluenceable.
I still feel like that's a big assumption. They should get more proof.
Which, as what Az said, he is the spy. Yeah. Cassian's the brute.
Fair. We're getting Cassian's internal dialogue.
Yes. Cassian's like, let's fuck him up, and Az is like, let's see how far his betrayal goes. Well, let's follow him first.
And the whole time he was like wanting to rush in there and just be like, he was just so impatient.
Yes. He was acting like a brute.
Okay. Fair. Okay. Can I get back to what really matters, please?
Yes.
Okay. So they start trucking to the bridge. They just defeated 6 dudes with little effort.
Yeah.
They pillaged some of the weaponry and water, and they start trucking along at a good pace. And they don't even get to the bridge before they see a whole other pack of guys.
Right.
Excuse me. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. So... I'm sorry. I drank a lot of soda. I thought you had a pen in your mouth, and you went like a little bubbly sound. Oh no, that was who burps a bubbly sound? Like what the fuck? Your burps are even dainty. You are Elaine. I hope the mic picked that burp up somehow, and you keep all of this in because it was the cutest little like. I can't even redo it. It's okay. Go ahead. Anyway, no, that's a man's cough, though.
Not really.
Okay. Meanwhile, I feel like we're the annoying commercial break now. Everybody's like, "What's happening?" I'm sorry. We'll get back to the show. Okay, so Nesta and they. I'm sorry. So they start like running towards it. They are starting to run across the bridge. These guys are like shooting arrows at them. Yeah. They have like long range missiles almost.
That's a little dramatic, but yes.
Agreed. And they're running. They're like, oh my gosh, we're not going to make it in time. Like, what are we going to do? And they are running. Elaine actually gets shot with an arrow. And so
back up.
Yes.
You said Elaine.
Oh. Sorry.
Emery makes it across the bridge first.
Emery makes it across the bridge. Elaine actually gets struck with an arrow. Damn it, I did it again. Gwyn actually gets struck with an arrow. And like so she
through her thigh.
Yes. Yeah. So she's just like limping along and she's just like cut the bridge.
Nesta's halfway across when this happens. So Emery flew across, Nesta's halfway. Gwyn has a fucking arrow through her thigh.
Yes.
And is sacrificing herself.
Yes. And she's like, go. And Nesta's like, not in my world.
Not on my watch.
She grabs the rope. She throws one end to Emery and is like, tie it around your waist in that tree. And then she takes out the bow and arrow and starts shooting at Emery's like, we haven't done archery yet. And she's like, my sister taught me a long time ago. And we know that backstory.
And she's like, shaking. That's what I pictured.
We know the backstory there is Nesta went out for like half of a day and was like, I don't really want to do this.
Not really into this.
Yeah.
It's not really my bag.
No. And so she shoots it. It's like right there. It lands right in front of Elaine. Elaine actually...
Elaine's not there.
Oh! It lands right in front of Gwyn. And Gwyn picks it up, wraps it around her waist. Right as Nesta's hand goes up, Emery throws the sword. Nesta grabs it and cuts off the bridge. And Gwyn, I almost said Elaine again. Gwyn like starts dropping because she's in the middle of the bridge.
I pictured her just like running midair,
and just
like with a rope, like very like action movie.
Very. I always picture for Gwyn. I always picture elves.
Yes,
like from Lord of the Rings.
For sure. Me too. Yeah.
And the like 3 or 4 guys behind her that were on the bridge too, they actually fall, but they don't have a rope to hold them up, and so they fall and die. Nesta and Emery both grab the rope, and it is just running through their hands and just blood everywhere. And as they're describing them yanking up the rope to like bring Gwyn back up, it's just like the rope is just red now. It's just because there's just so much blood.
It's a red rope now.
Yes, but the whole time she's like, we got this, we don't care, we can move through the pain. And they move like Valkyrie, and Gwyn is safe.
She is, and they are able to like bind her leg up, like remove the arrow and bind her leg up, but she's not doing too good. They are walking for the next 2 days, and they're describing her as like ashen, having a hard time walking. So she's struggling for the most part. So hike for 2 days. They're at the foot of Ramil. Nesta.
I think it's Ramiel.
What am I saying?
Ramiel.
Why do I always do that?
Why do I keep calling Gwyn Elaine?
Because in my mind, I'm saying Ramiel, but I'm saying Ramil. This happened with me with Kamala Harris. I kept saying Kamala, and people are like, Kamala. And I'm like, what am I saying? Isn't that what I'm saying? No, definitely not what I'm saying.
Those sounded very similar to me, so maybe you didn't.
I think I've overcorrected myself now, so I just always say it right because people get really mad at me, which rightfully they should. Like
Did you call her Kamala?
No. So Gwen's leg is bound up, but she is not doing too good. They are walking for 2 days when they reach the foot of Ramil. Nesta told them that only 12 have made it this far ever in the history of the Blood Right.
And they are one of
And
the
they
12.
have made it to the mountain. They are one of the 12. The Oristan, whatever that level is. Emery suggests, we could just like hide and camp out here. It's done in the morning anyway.
Yeah.
And Gwen's like, did we come all this way and do all this shit to only hide? And Nesta's like, we would live. I mean, we'd be alive.
You're more important to me than this silly, silly Illyrian game.
And Gwyn is like, I'm tired of taking the safe road. I want to take that road. And I want to take it with the 2 of you to show people that something new can come of all of this. Yes. Something new can happen. So. And then she told them the full story of Sangrave and her sister, and how Hybern attacked, and she just kind of says it right away. She says, I was raped by a Hybern soldier, and he laughed the entire time. And she talks about how her and her twin, Katrin,
which is the first time we
haven't heard her name yet. We've heard she had a twin sister, but we have not heard any of this in depth at all. Her and her twin woke to screaming. And her sister was always like better at this kind of stuff. She was always the protector. She always knew what to do. The brave one. She was the brave one. And she told Gwyn, go find the children and hide them, like get them out of here. So that's what Gwyn did. She gathered all the kids up, took them to the kitchen where there was like this trap door into the catacombs, like under Savengras. And as soon as that was happening, she heard the men coming. She knew she didn't have time to get in there with them. So she pushed the kids in there, closed the trapdoor, put a rug over it, and like moved the table right as they walked in. And he wanted to know where the children were, and she lied and said they took the North Road to go warn people. He knew she was lying. He brought in all the priestesses, her sister, one of them, and said, if you don't tell me where these damn kids are, I'm going to kill them. And she still would not.
Knife to her sister's throat.
He beheaded Katrin, 2 other priestesses as well, and then told the soldiers to quote unquote go to work on the rest of them. He then raped her, laughed the entire time. She says she was a virgin too. She had not been through the Great Rite yet.
Which is so weird that everybody like loses their virginity at this like Fae orgy they have every year.
Yeah, way to like make the funny part of a really like sensitive subject.
I'm
but I
trying
also
to
thought
lighten
I
the
also
mood.
I also thought that. In all honesty, I was like, ooh, that's kind of weird. So he raped her, called 3 other soldiers over, and told them to keep doing it until she revealed where the children were. And that is when Az walked in and butchered all of those damn soldiers. Good,
Yeah.
right? Emery is then also motivated to tell them more about her father. Her father beat her so badly one time he broke her back and kept her in bed for weeks, telling them that she was ill and that he didn't, like, not that he did anything like that. Then she says that was the lesser of his 2 evils. He also beat her mom so badly he killed her and made Emery dig her fucking grave.
Yes.
Like, and told people she died giving birth.
Yeah.
And Emery had to, like, keep that lie up about her own mother. And then what I loved is Emery ended it with, I came to training because he would have forbid it.
Yeah.
Good for you, Emery.
I wanted to give him the finger in the grave.
Right.
Well, and she was like, everybody used to come up to me and say, oh my gosh, your father is so wonderful. What a great warrior.
Right.
And she was just like, you have no idea.
He's awful.
And she was like, I wish I would have told people, because that sucks, one, that they're coming like that. But now, because she's not praising him all the time, she's like, no one look down on her.
No one would have believed her anymore.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Or then Nesta, she's told them before about how she ended up at the House of Wind, but she flat out says that she had become such a wrench, drinking and fucking everything in sight. She says for more than a year, she abused their kindness and generosity, and she did it because she blames herself for her father dying, and she did nothing to stop it. She put voice to all of these feelings and trauma that she's been living for the last 600 and 700 pages, and actually put it into words of what she did to other people because she hated herself, essentially. And they looked at each other and they're like, we're going to win the whole damn thing. Let's go.
Yeah.
Girl power.
Something that like came to me immediately when I read like the 3 stories was, okay, so Gwyn says, my sister got murdered in front of me. I was raped by multiple people. Or almost multiple people. Emery is like, my dad murdered my mom, made me dig the grave. He broke my back because he beat me so bad every day. Like, and then Nesta is like, yeah, and I was a really big bitch and slut.
I was mean to people and really slutty.
And I drank a lot. And it's kind of like, ooh. But she did talk about, like, the cauldron and everything. Like, I'm just joking about her trauma, but it was one of those things where she didn't even present it as, like, this is why I'm like this. Yeah. It was, she started with the, I'm a B word, but then also this trauma happened that may have contributed.
Oh, my gosh. So, before we watch them win this shit, right? Because they're Valkyrie and they're going to kick ass. Cassian and Az have been following Eris.
For
3 days.
Get back to the story.
All right, but they've been following Eris for 3 days, and then all of a sudden Eris like sneaks up on them. Like, you're not very good spies, by the way, but Eris sneaks up and puts a dagger to Cassian's back, and Cassian's like, I knew you were a fucking traitor, you scum. Eris said that he was disappointed. Reese like didn't even try. He didn't even try and look at my mind. And Cassian calls him a traitor, and Eris calls the Morgan. When he's like, you're referring to old grudges.
The Morrigan.
The Morrigan! And Cassian's like, he has never once called her that. I am calling bullshit. Eris is under some sort of illusion. He realizes that he's being controlled by Braylon.
Yeah, he's like, okay, come out. Play with a real man.
Play with a real man. But before we find out what's going on with Braylon, Nesta and the girls.
So they head up the mountain.
They do.
They're going to win this. They get about 2/3 of the way, and they see a group behind them. Yeah. Some of that group that was behind them, like...
Found a way around.
Yeah. Gwyn.
And not only that, it's Bellius.
Yes.
And his guys, yeah.
And Gwyn is just, like... She's struggling. Yeah. She's just white. Like, her leg is just drenched in blood, and she's just so pale. Emery actually sprained her ankle like during the climb.
Well, and wasn't doing all that great before. She was rescued out of almost going down a waterfall. She's
limping too. And Nesta's like, okay, they are right behind us. Like Gwyn is like, I just need one more rest. And Nesta's like, we can't rest.
Right.
And so she actually puts Gwyn on her back and like lifts her up, and Gwen's like, ow, because like she's putting her on her, piggyback. And Emery, she's like, Emery, just like, let's go. And she's like climbing.
Well, and I like how she said in her mind, this is why I did all those damn stairs.
Yeah, this is why I was training for that. It's fate.
Because I was wondering the whole time, why the hell are you doing all these stairs? But
yeah, exactly. And so they are climbing up. The pack is still behind him.
Gaining on him too,
Yeah. And then they get up to the, pass of Annihilus. And so this is where that archway is, that 300 style area where they get past. And they're like, okay, we get past this, then we just go straight up. That climb is really bad, but we got this.
We can do it.
And so they start climbing up higher and higher. And all of a sudden they trip. Nesta trips and falls flat on her face and then tumbles all the way back down. So all the progress that they made, they went all the way back down to this sacred spot.
Right.
And like Gwyn is just like, I'm alive. Like Nesta's like immediate reaction is like, did I just murder my friend? And Gwyn is like, no, I'm alive. Emery makes her way down to her fallen sisters, and Nesta's just like, we can't do this.
I can't carry you guys.
I can't move any further. And she looks, and the men are like even closer than she thought they would be. So not only are they gaining, like, but they just fell down. So they're like meeting them halfway.
Yeah.
So she looks at Emery and says,
can you carry her?
Can you carry her? Gwyn the whole time in the background is just saying, no, we're not doing this. Like, we stay together. And like they're just ignoring
I just pictured Nesta and Emery just looking at each other, like Emery, raised in a more warrior mindset, like knew what she was saying and like knew there was no convincing Nesta otherwise. Like, this is what was happening. Can you do this? Kind of the way Feyre talked to Nesta before. Like, hey, you need to go do blah, 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 blah. And Nesta knew.
Maybe that's why this episode I keep mixing up Gwyn and Elaine, because in that scenario, Elaine is in the background saying no.
Very true. Like, I saw that whole scenario. Yeah.
Do you like how I twisted that so that sounded purposeful?
I mean, manipulation 101. Marissa got an A.
So Emery says, okay, like they say okay with their heads, and then, Nesta grabs Emery and then is like, okay, we'll all stay together. I love you, blah, blah, blah. Hits the pressure point that Cassian taught her, and Gwyn just like passes out.
Yeah.
And she like hoists Gwyn on top of Emery. Emery's like, okay, I got her. Emery looked at Nesta and was like, Gwyn's never going to forgive you. And she's like, I know, but we have no other option.
But she'll be safe. Giddy up!
Yeah. And she basically was like, both of you guys will die because you guys can't handle these guys right now.
Right.
I got them.
Right. And Emery was like, you can come with us. And Nesta's like, consider it repayment for a debt. And she's like, a debt? She's like, for being my friends. Yeah. She's like, there's no debt to being your friend.
But there is
go win this thing. I got you. Okay, but again, panning back, some shit actually did just go down with Cassian and Az, right?
Gosh.
So it's interesting now.
Actually,
right?
fair. Now we're interesting commercials.
Cassian and Az see this hunched, cloaked figure at the lake, right? The army's gone. It's probably a fucking illusion the whole time. They've probably been watching them the whole time. Like, this massive army just gone. The figure drops the cloak and nothing's there. Then 30 feet off of shore, there's a floating like shadow that warped into this like shape of a man. Right away, they're like, okay, this is Koshi. This is obviously not Faye. Yeah, we're at a lake. This is Koshi. Az realized something, told Cassian to run. So Az's eyes just kind of get big, and he tells Cassian, run. Cassian could not move. But Az grabbed Eris with the dagger and shot into the sky. So Cassian can't move. Az is up in the sky. Koshi then just tells Braylon, he's all yours now. And Braylon emerges with the crown. So she was controlling Cassian with the crown. She told Koshi to winnow them, and they were all gone.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Nesta.
Like real shit's going on. No,
Yes.
just kidding.
Nesta is like, she actually takes the knife and draws a line across.
I mean, it's a sword.
She takes the sword and draws a line across the pass.
Yes.
And steps in front of it and is like, no one will cross this line. She says that in her head because nobody else is around.
But don't you, like, every time she says, she sneers and she's like had this wicked grin.
Yes.
I see much more fierceness than I ever did with, like, Feyre.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I remember feeling, like, very badass with what Feyre was doing. I'm not trying to compare the sisters, but I'm just saying, in this moment, Nesta is the most badass bitch I've ever seen in my life. This is what I'm picturing in my head. Yeah.
So she's sitting there, and of course, Belarius, or is that his name?
Bellius is what we've been calling him.
Bellius is sitting in the background, and he sends in the minions first.
Yes.
And she's like, boom, boom, drop, drop. She is just dropping people, corpses everywhere.
I don't really think drop. I think murder, murder, murder.
Fair. And then finally, Bellius comes in, and he's like, ha, 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 you idiot.
Yeah.
Like, I've got you now, my little pretty. And basically, they start fighting.
Yeah.
And, like, she takes his blows, but he is, like, hitting hard.
But as soon as he starts doing that villain monologue, Gwyn and Emery touch the top of the mountain.
Yes.
So she knows her friends are safe.
So she's like, game over. I don't even care.
I'm fucking you up.
I just have to last until dawn,
I'm going
which
out
is
swinging.
minutes away.
Right.
And so Bellius is like, I don't even care about that silly, like, because she's
like,
Nesta,
looks like you didn't win.
Yeah, Nesta's like, looks like you didn't win.
Yeah.
Like, haha, we win. And so Bellius is like, I didn't even care about that.
Yeah.
She sent me for something bigger. And she's like, oh shit.
So that haze was real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she realized, okay, you're not drunk. You're just, mind is being controlled.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're fighting, and they're like, Bellius is going to fight her to the death.
Yeah.
She fights. She loses the shield. She fights a little bit. She loses the sword. She's like, dang, rookie mistakes. So she's standing there, and he like laughs at her. Is like, you really think you can take me hand to hand? And she answers with just like a swift punch to the nose. And she's like, my mate taught me that.
Yeah, I do, because my mate taught me well.
Boom.
Yeah.
In your face.
She fought a good fight. She did fight a really good fight, and she's down on the ground, and she knows she's going to die.
Yes.
And Bellius draws his sword to slice her throat.
And all of a sudden, boom, through the back of the neck.
Yeah.
Again, they really like the back of the neck.
Same
shot.
with the King of Hybrid.
Yes.
Yeah.
But back there is Cassian, and she's like, I just bragged about my mate.
That's my mate.
And then my mate killed him. Woo, woo. And she goes up and gives Cassian a hug, and Cassian says, and now I'm going to murder you. And she's like, damn it.
He said, and now I'm going to slit your pretty little throat.
Okay, that's more poetic.
Now I'm going to murder you. We already talked about how scary your villain voice is.
I know, it's good, right?
I mean, my palms are sweaty. I don't even know what to do.
I know. You're welcome, everyone.
So we know that's not Cassian.
Yes.
That's not our Cassian.
Mm-mm.
Nesta says Cassian's words were not his own.
Yes.
And it pans to like him, and you see what he's doing, and he's screaming from the inside, telling her, kill me, fight me.
Yes.
Do, like
with his eyes.
He's trying to, but it's not working.
And Braylon is very much doing her villain monologue.
Oh, while this is all like this struggle is going on, she's like, ha ha ha, I've been in control the whole time.
This was all part of my plan.
Yeah.
I was the one that actually had you kidnapped, not the Illyrians.
Right.
Because I had Bellius from the very beginning.
Yeah.
I captured him when he was scouting in the continent before you even met him. He's been giving me information through Emery.
Right.
Like, and
I stashed all those weapons everywhere.
Yes. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I put you here because I wanted to wear you out. Yes, you have lots of power, but now you're so effing tired from this week.
Mm-hmm.
You almost died. You're not going to be able to handle it. Cassian.
Well, first of all, Nesta's like, I was worn out days ago. Like, why'd you wait this long? And she's like, because I wanted your mate to do this.
Well, and
Bitch,
she's
no.
like, she looked at Cassian and was like, because he didn't rush in like a brute like I thought he would.
Yeah.
He was patient, and I ran out of time, so I had to lure him out to the lake.
Lure him out here, and basically it will destroy him to know what I'm about to make him do to you.
Yeah.
And I want to do that too.
And
which again, it's not a villain monologue, but it is a very like make my story even more villain-y, which is going to be the beginning of my demise. Okay. So if you want to be a good villain out there, don't do this shit.
Yeah.
Just take the kill when you get the kill.
And she just says kill to Cassian. And Nesta like raises her hands like, oh God, he's going to kill me. And he stabs the knife, she assumes, in his heart, because he drops to the floor.
Yeah.
And she just like stands up and like goes crazy with her powers, just in anger and rush. It erupted all over her. And slowly Braylon like turns young again. Then you see her beautiful hands, young hands, and then all of a sudden that young hand turns to ash.
Like crumbles
away. And Cassian looks up and says, wow, you just... I guess I should have stayed down. I assumed I should have stayed down there.
No, he goes, Nesta runs over to him and he's like, yeah, I figured I should just lie low while you did that.
And then he's like, you just unmade her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which she is a death god.
I know.
So.
But then she goes, I am your mate. He goes, I am your mate. I'm so sorry we fought. I love you. I love you. And then Mor and Az just appear, and they're like, it's Feyre.
She's having the baby.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, holy cow, all of this happens in one day?
Yeah.
What? Like, I feel like the whole full moon, like, conspiracy that, like, the hospitals are crazy in the full moon.
Isn't it like the stars are right over Ramil by the time they get there?
Oh, so maybe it's some sort of... We'll get to it in theory. I should write that down.
So the baby is coming. No one can fix it. Feyre obviously tells them to save the baby, which means they have to cut it out of her, which means she's going to bleed out, right? Everyone is going freaking crazy. They do this. I just keep seeing chaos because we're seeing a lot of this from Nesta's point of view at this point, Cassian as well. But it's just Rhys is screaming and crying and they're holding him back because Feyre's going to die, which means he's going to die. They pull the baby out. The baby is silent. Feyre's bleeding out. Rhys is going nuts. Magda's trying to save her. And Nesta says she can just feel death all around her. And she is death, remember? She can just feel death all around her. She's kind of in like a trance. She steps away from Elaine and just said she just like opened up her soul, is the way she described it. When Cassian turned in the middle of this chaos, she's wearing the mask, the crown, and has the harp in her hand. She moves towards the bed and plucks that last string. The 26th string, which remember, makes big moves, is what the harp said. The string was actually time itself. So she pauses time. She stops time, which if you remember, Lantha said that even death bowed to the final string.
Yeah.
So the baby's about to die, Rhys is about to die, Feyre's about to die. She basically just pauses time.
And when she does this, it actually like describes like the pause version. And she has the mask on, the crown on, and the string. And so she is controlling the death with the mask by pausing death around the baby and everything.
Right.
She is using the crown to like control everybody around her. She's using the time to pause time. And she goes over and she's just thinking in her head, like, I want to be with family. Like, this is what's important.
Mm-hmm.
And she keeps just saying, like, I'll give it all back. I'll give it all back. As she's kind of going.
As she's saying to herself, like, I don't want to feel nothing anymore.
Yeah.
This is what this is all about.
And so she, like, lays down on Feyre and just says, I'll give it all back if you show me how to save her.
Right.
Help me save them and I'll give it all back. And it's basically she's praying. And light is shining through from Nesta to Feyre.
Right.
And everybody is like coming to, because all of this is like slow motion time stopped, where Cassian looks up and she's in one place and now she's in the other. Mm-hmm. And they just hear, I'll give it back. I'll give it back. I'll give it back. and that you actually see like the light shine, and then a little morsel of light goes over to the baby.
Yeah.
And
Made
Feyre
him glow. Like
made him glow. In that time, Nesta, like while the time was paused, she just said, I love you, Feyre.
Mm-hmm.
And she has literally never said that to anyone.
Right.
Which is crazy, but not unbelievable for what we know about Nesta.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you're right. She hasn't even said it to Cassian, right?
I that's what I was just thinking. I don't think she says it in a roundabout way, but she doesn't.
No, she says you're mine, and she says you're my mate.
You're mine.
But she doesn't. I don't know. I'm gonna have to crowdsource that and see if she actually
tells
said,
her she tells her she loves her, and then the baby starts crying. Like at the same time, I was like, oh! I was crying during this part, by the way.
I wasn't.
And then I like how Magda's like, looks like you got a Illyrian anatomy down there. I just see it was like witch kind of like doctor going, oh,
well, they're all rejoicing that.
Also, when the light was pouring from Nesta to Feyre, they talked about the tattoo that appeared across her back. The bargain she made with the cauldron to save Feyre. It was good.
So Cassian, when he described the light coming from Nesta, he also said that he saw like some come out and then a little bit come back in. So that made me think like, oh, maybe she didn't have to give all of her power back to the cauldron.
I didn't pick up on that foreshadowing. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that foreshadowing.
Well, I hope she keeps a little bit of it.
What I found lovely is what did Rhys do instantly?
He kneeled down to Nesta and just was,
thank you.
But
kneeled.
Yes.
Like that's a big thing, right? And she knelt down right there with him and hugged him. Yes. I was like, oh, they're family. They're all family now. So with what you were saying about the power coming back into her, we do find out that Nesta, all of her power isn't gone. Some does remain, and they attribute that to the mother. Like Mother Nature did give her some back. She had the knowledge to change Feyre, and she mentions that she changed herself. Like, we're okay too. And I like how Cassian's like, you want a baby? And she's like, oh, heavens no.
Not yet.
No. But we will never have this problem again.
We do have eternity together, though.
Cassian turned to her too at this moment and said, you could have ruled the world with your power. And she's like, I don't want to do silly things like rule the world. I don't want to do that. I just want you. Aww. Were you cringing a lot during this part?
No, I thought it was sweet.
Yeah.
I love that she like called out like, okay, so I can grab those anytime I want. Mm-hmm. So I really need to make sure I don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we have to talk about Eris, though. Ugh. We have to pan back just for a minute. So Cassian has to meet with Eris to figure out what Baron knows at this point, because Baron is still a loose cannon. There still is a death god on the loose. There are still unaccounted for queens. This was just one queen. Yeah. There's all these other queens. There's a war starting. We got to know what Baron's doing. So Eris tells him, you always got to mix a little bit of the truth with the lies when to withstand enemy torture. And Cassian right away is like, did your dad torture you? And Eris is kind of like, that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Moving on. Who cares what my father does to me?
Well, he even is like, I don't need your pity.
Like, yeah, he's kind of pissed. He does say that.
He's like, calls him Lord of Bastards. And so now, like, this Lord of Bastards, I'm a High Lord's son.
But he also thought he was, like, being a smartass, and he revealed that his dad fucking tortured him to get information. He's like, Baron's like, he thinks the Night Court got word that Braylon kidnapped a valuable asset. You can't see my air quotes, valuable asset, and that you guys were disgusted that when you showed up, it was me. So he knows, like, you helped me, but, like, that's the extent of what he knows.
That's not a lie, because, frankly, the first thing that Cassian said when he saw Eris
why do we have to go get him? No.
I knew you were an enemy. Like, so he tells the truth, but just only 2 sentences.
Cassian keeps thinking in his head, like, Baron actually tortured his own son, his own heir, for information. Then Cassian's like, why did you leave Moore in the woods? And Eris deflects and he says, I'm not the person who should, that you should want to explain themselves. It shouldn't be me. He changes the subject, and I feel like there's so much more to the story there. We're going to talk about that in our theories a lot because there's a lot there, but he just changes the subject. He's like, I'm not the one who should be explaining myself. We need to worry that Baron is pissed, that his ally is dead, Koshi is still in play, and Baron might be dumb enough to fucking go and align with a death god. That's what you need to fucking focus on, you brute. And as Cassian was leaving, I thought it was really sweet that he turned to Eris and he was like, I think you might be a decent male, like deep down, trapped in a terrible situation, which honestly sounds a lot like Rhys's story.
Yeah. In
all honesty. And then he thought was how he was born into riches, but was destitute in every way that mattered. And that's why I feel bad for Eris, because I feel like that is very, very true.
Okay, fair, but everybody's like that. Like, think of Tamlin. Tamlin said to that, or was it Lucian or Tamlin that told him, like, I wasn't blessed with friends like yours. You know what I mean? Like, not all of us were blessed with friends. Like,
Eris said that.
Yeah, so everybody has their cross to bear.
No, you said everyone has their cross to bear. You just said a line as an example of it, and it was a line that Eris said.
But Tamlin always talked about how his dad was a dick.
His brothers were dicks too. Yeah.
So I think it's just, yes, he probably has his stuff. I don't really care about that.
I do. I'm here for an Eris. I want to know a lot more about Eris.
Yeah.
And then he thought he might be a good male. You're just too much of a coward to act like that.
That's a twist the knife.
But he's trying to light a fire, I think, because like that's what gets the rest of the guys. The rest of the bat boys have to kind of goad each other to get a move a little bit. So I think that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Either way, Nesta's home. We end this book with her in Valaris. Her and Cassian are going to
pause? Can I tell a story first?
Oh, of course.
So Cassian is finally like, you finally acknowledged we're mates.
Yeah.
Like, kudos, high five. Like, kind of like, are you going to accept the, And she's like, okay, but I just want like a super obnoxious ceremony.
Yeah, that's all I want.
That's all I want. And he's like, really? Like, I just kind of want like just our friends. Like, do we really have to do something? She's like, either that or, and she pulls out like a stale cracker and is like, or here. And he's like, these are my two options.
A huge extravagant party.
And he's like,
or a fucking half-eaten stale cracker.
And so he's like,
and she's like, yeah.
Okay, put the cracker away. We'll do something bigger than like just 5 people, I guess.
Yeah.
And then for all of this time, Rhys is just gifting her things. And it's just like, so like gracious of her to the point where Nesta is like, okay, cool it. No more gifts. I can't take it anymore.
Like I saved your wife. I get it, but she was my sister. I still kind of don't like you.
Yes. Like we don't like.
Can we just go back to insulting each other?
And I almost picture Nesta being like, "This feels like too fake. Like quit love bombing me."
Isn't that exactly how Amryn would act too, though?
Ooh,
that's why they connected. I think because Amryn would be like, "Okay, yeah, shower me with jewels."
Yeah,
but then like go away.
Yes.
Like,
oh, Nesta's totally going to be where, like, he goes and buys a necklace for Amryn and a necklace for Nesta.
Instead, it's like, here, you could have the House of Wind. And I thought it was funny. It's like, the house kind of already chose her, Rhys.
Yeah.
FYI.
Well, he did say, like, the priestesses get to keep this.
Yeah.
We can come use it whenever we want. But he does say, like, the house chose you.
Yeah.
It's yours.
Yeah. The house did choose her.
Yeah.
As a friend.
And she said, the only gift is like just throw an elaborate ceremony for me. And so he like definitely will go over the top. They don't actually talk about what he does, but they talk about people hurrying around in the background, like just planning and doing stuff and like obnoxious amount of flowers everywhere. And she's like, yeah, I don't even have to worry. I know he's going to go over the top,
which is perfect,
which is exactly what she wanted.
They have a very like funny brother-in-law, sister-in-law type of like relationship. Like it starts with like what are your intentions with my fucking sister? And then it's like, I think they're chummy now.
Well, yes.
So Nesta is kind of closing all of this up in her mind with, this feels like home now, right? The house, Valaris, Cassian, it's all home, and she likes it. I think it was also interesting that she went to the river house and Feyre had painted a portrait of her holding the pass of Aeneas.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right next to the picture. She gave it to her as a mating gift, I think, right? But it was next to that picture that she had noticed of her and Elaine, and there was no picture of her from last time. And now it's like this badass portrait that she gets as a mating gift. And we end with the girls all going to Papa Archeron's grave. And Nesta goes to her father's grave, and the girls kind of say their piece, but walk away and give her some time. She has all of these feelings. We know how she felt at the end, with the girls and all of that. And she just musters, thank you. And she puts all of it to bed, in my opinion. And now we're having no more self-loathing Nesta. She is healed and is a warrior.
Yes.
And that is the end of A Court of Silver Flames.
But if you look at the vast scheme of, like, the group,
mm-hmm.
Amryn has lost her power, and Nesta has given away most of her power.
Most of it, but she still has enough power to change her anatomy, which is not supposed to be able to be done.
I think that is part of the
mother.
She gave that, away, and that was the gift for...
Right. But I'm still interested to see what her power is going to be now, because her power has been death, right? Which, what the hell does that even mean?
Yeah.
And now it kind of, all the references to the mother gave something back. It's kind of like Mother Earth. I feel like it's going to be a very, earthy type of thing.
Such a good theory about this.
Oh, we're going to
hold it. So I can't wait to talk about it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Okay. So...
Well, I feel like I played that too high. I'm excited to talk about it because I haven't talked about it with anybody, not because it's good. So I want to temper expectations.
It's only good if it ends up being true. And then you're like, I told you.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be true. It's too wild.
Is it going to be a Reese trick? Where you're like, I was thinking that's what it was.
Damn it. I've got to be more vague with my theories then. I've got to retake notes for the next episode. Okay,
so end of the 4th book, real book, right? New point of view, new characters. Do you want to give a summary? You want to give your favorite character?
How about we do, what sliver do you wish we would have seen in the timeline of this book series that we didn't have visibility into?
Well, I mean, Moore's been gone for an entire fucking book.
Yeah.
You know, she's...
So is that your thing? You're curious where Moore is?
Well, yeah, I'm going to dip into theories a little bit. I mean, there's got to be something going on there, right? I don't know if she was necessarily at Valhalla the whole time. What's really going on? She seems to be too pivotal of a piece to just be gone. Now, granted, there is no actual war in this book. Right? This is all preemptive, and we know something's going down with Koshi soon. So there's got to be something big going on across to pull her away from what's going on right now.
Yeah. I'm super interested in the timeline, not even of this book, of this whole entire series.
Mm-hmm.
What is happening on the continent? The continent is so much bigger. I feel like we're going to find out that we are learning about an island in Hawaii, and then it's going to expand and be like, holy cow, there's all these continents everywhere. We are just a small portion of a state, of a country, of a continent.
Well, and not only that, when they were talking about the war with Hybern was also like an island, right? If any one of those 3 other territories joined with them, they were done.
Yeah.
And Hybern was already bigger than them. So something big's going on the continent. Yeah.
But they say that it's a mostly human continent, right?
No, they had a wall too. In the map, remember the wall.
But just most of the humans are on that side because
maybe that's part of it. What if when the wall fell, it fell on the continent too? Maybe that's what's going down.
The wall went down everywhere.
Yeah.
So it probably during Nesta's whole book is probably Murder City on the continent.
Something's going on over there too. Yeah, so we've said this a lot in this series that after A Court of Thorn and Roses, this world was opened up much bigger. And then with Court of Wings and Ruin, it got opened up even bigger and bigger. Like with each one, maybe our world is about to be opened up to a world, not just this country that we're talking about. That's separated into...
It's an island.
It's an island, yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Out of all 4 books, which one is your favorite?
Wings and Ruin.
Is this one your second favorite? What's your second favorite? And that took you a minute to think about it, because which one were you thinking with?
Not this one. I mean, this one's good. This one's long.
It is long.
And this one, like, it was long.
I don't know if it's the reread. Now, there is a whole like canon event when it comes to if you are an oldest sister and you're reading about Nesta. We all hate Nesta at first, and it's very fucking hard to get over that. I've talked about it with multiple oldest sisters.
Yeah.
Especially sisters, because it's like there is no fucking way that is what would have happened. And I think the second time reading this book, I appreciate the journey more. Okay, it's still long. I still think this book's a little too long. Like we could have gotten there a little bit quicker. But I was able to actually appreciate Nesta's character development. And I think the first time around, I didn't appreciate it. I was still caught up on the I would fucking never.
Yes.
Right? And so now I really got to honestly kind of fall in love with her as a character.
Yeah.
I like her a lot now. And I did not feel that way before I reread it the second time.
Yeah. I would say like the back third of this book saved the whole book.
Agreed.
And I do really like that back third, but if you look at the entirety of the book, the percentage of the book I like actually enjoyed during the reading time was a smaller percentage than the other books.
It's almost like I would have liked if Nesta's self-loathing and development portion would have happened in Frost and Starlight.
Or I think I would have been okay if the timeline was the same, but instead of like beating down the self-loathing, like we saw what Moira's doing. Like it cut to more.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe the next book will be the exact same time, but what Moira's doing.
Ooh, I kind of hope not.
I know. But in the Throne of Glass series, that's what she did halfway through.
I feel like that'll just be reading the same book for the
That's why
third
people
time.
do the tandem read.
But you can't tandem read if you don't release them at the same time.
So to all of you out there, you 30 listeners, if you have read Throne of Glass and you actually read it when it was coming out, let us know how painful that was, because that would have been really, really painful.
Yeah.
I haven't even read it yet.
Okay. So next time, we will be talking about theories
on what we think the next book is, the different plot holes that we found, different theories that we have for different characters and situations. Loved this series. I'm going to say right now, this series got me into reading, right? I saw it all over TikTok and I was like, okay, screw it. There's a writer's strike. There's nothing on TV. I had just found out they canceled all of my cheesy sci-fi shows that I watched, and there was already a strike going on, so I wasn't going to have anything to watch or do. And I bought it, and I read the entire 5 books, I think, in less than 2 weeks.
That's fast.
Yeah, it was over like Christmas break, basically. I just sat and I read all of them. I think I read Mist and Fury in a day, and then literally reread it the next day, and then moved on. Like it got me into reading, and I think that's a story for a lot of people.
Yeah.
If you look on the grams and the talks, it got a huge portion of adult people back into reading because it's like an easy fantasy.
Yeah. Okay. I'm excited about the next episode.
Me too.
Because we are talking theories.
All right. So thank you for joining us. Please follow Hightails Lit Sisters on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and thank you for talking high tales with your favorite lit sisters.
Goodbye.
Bye.